Hello, hello. Welcome to Archaeopolitics. What is Archaeopolitics? It's a reread Harry Potter podcast focusing on, politics, because the name, I think it's fairly obvious at this point. I am Adri, one of your hosts, and a recovering English major who is going to Puerto Rico next week.
That I didn't know. That's exciting.
I'm very excited. I called my parents.
Yeah, get to see your parents. Yeah.
Yeah, I called my parents with some stuff, and they were like, "Just come over and visit us, and we'll treat you to stuff that you've been homesick for." And I was like, "You know what? You're right. I should go."
That is the best part of visiting home, for sure.
Well, also, I know the Delta variant and COVID and everything is shit. So, but what am I waiting for? Honestly.
Yeah, I mean, you're all vaccinated, so that helps.
That is a little bit helpful, yes.
Well, I'm Helene, your co-host, producer, and by the time this episode airs, I'm going to be a newly minted 28-year-old.
By the way, I mean, I know this isn't podcast related, but your gift is going to be a little bit late, but it's happening.
Oh, thank you. I didn't know that there was going to be a gift. That's exciting.
I mean, gifts are always exciting.
This is true.
All right. So, Helene, tell us, what are we talking about today?
We are going to be discussing Chapter 7 of Half-Blood Prince, which is titled The Slug Club.
The Slug Club, which is honestly one of the best titles ever.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those self-explanatory titles, that chapter where the Slug Club happens. But I do have a better, summary than that, which is so. This is the one where Harry starts to suspect Malfoy of becoming a Death Eater, but no one wants to believe him or agree with him. But meanwhile, the Hogwarts Express is taking everyone back to school, and Slughorn has called the first meeting of the Slug Club, hence the chapter name. Afterwards, Harry follows Blaise Zabini back to the Slytherin compartment to spy on Malfoy, but is not so sneaky and gets caught and attacked.
Mr. Potter, what were you thinking?
Yeah, well, he wasn't at his best in this chapter, I'll tell you that.
Well, I think it doesn't help that he feels he hasn't been heard by anyone.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where it's always really frustrating as a reader to have everybody in the text question the main character. Like, this person has been right about so many things. Like, you should learn to trust them. They've gone through so much in this series already. Like, why can't you trust him? He has good instincts.
Well, I mean, he has good instincts. Sometimes those instincts are a little bit dramatic.
True, for sure. Fair.
But, at his core, he's not truly 100% wrong.
Yeah. I mean, we as the reader, having finished this book already, we know that technically he is right, that Draco has officially been sort of, I don't know, brought in as a Death Eater because he's been given that special mission or whatever.
I was going to be like, is it like a Death Eater bat mitzvah?
Yeah. He's officially become a man in the evil villain world.
It's like he's joined a fraternity of peers. I don't know, what kind of thing. Like, do Death Eaters do hazing? I bet they do.
I bet they do. Yeah, but I mean, it's always really frustrating when everybody doesn't trust your main character, especially when you know they're right. It's like, come on.
It sucks, but it's where we are in the series. Someone has to doubt him to create conflict within himself and push him to the limits.
That's true. I feel like this entire book is just like, let's make Harry feel crazy for believing this, even though he's right. But before we get to more of our debate club and our deep dive, I did have one thing in Potter Watch that I wanted to bring up. One piece of news that has dropped in the United States the past week, which is good news, finally. FDA approved Pfizer vaccine. So, yay! Pfizer vaccine is officially approved by the FDA, which hopefully will make a difference, but probably won't. But I mean, I'm a Hufflepuff, so I'm optimistic.
I love thinking about this because part of me was like, this means that those people who were hesitant, right? Because they're like, the FDA hasn't approved it yet, so I'm not going to get it.
Right.
Are going to get it. And then I was like, no, they're not. Most of them are not. They're going to find another way to say, well, how can I know it's truly safe? Because intergovernment conspiracy theories.
Like, oh, I can't trust the FDA anymore, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Like, FDA who?
Yeah. Well, I mean, hopefully there is at least a little bit of the population that actually truly was like meant it when they said they just wanted it to be FDA approved before they got it, and now they're going to go get it. But, you know, probably not a big enough portion to make a huge difference, but maybe there are a couple people out there.
Indeed. Perhaps there are some people out there who will get it and we can get some kind of herd immunity or what have you.
That would be nice.
Well, since we've already talked about, the news of the day, which is like hopeful / cynical, with me being the cynic in the room. Let's talk about the politics for this chapter that is jam-packed, but also not really.
Yeah, I mean, this was one of those nice chapters that I read it and like I knew exactly what I wanted my politics to be, and I felt good about it, and I didn't have any issues, which was nice.
Your politic was I think like one of my first picks. Yeah. And before I even saw the doc, I was like, no, but I want it to be about this other thing. So I feel like we're good.
Okay.
We're good.
Yeah. I mean, so it's nice because this is inherently a pretty political chapter, which helps make doing this podcast a lot easier.
When the stars align, listeners,
yes,
they align.
So my politic this week was nepotism. So nepotism, I'm sure everybody knows what that means, but it is officially defined as a form of favoritism which is granted to relatives and friends in various fields. So, giving somebody a job or a privilege or something because of their connections, their familial relations, all of those things. Nepotism. And I picked this because this is the chapter about the Slug Club, and every single person invited to the Slug Club except for Ginny, which I will get to in my chocolate, was chosen to be in the Slug Club because they had famous or outstanding relatives, or people in their lives in general, and therefore Slughorn expected them to be special themselves solely because of who they're related to or associated with. So
yeah, it's very sorting hat of him. Like, oh, your entire family was a Gryffindor. You may have 90% chance of being in Gryffindor, you guys.
Yeah, and also, I also found this one little connection that actually fits really well, but wasn't super obvious in terms of nepotism in the chapter. But we also see, as we talked about earlier, like we see Harry suspecting that Malfoy is a Death Eater, and really it's mainly because his father is a Death Eater. So familial associations, assuming that someone is something because their parents are.
Well, and also because he flinched with his left hand, and because he's being shadier than usual.
Yeah. But like, if Malfoy wasn't related to or associated in like really like obviously associated with other Death Eaters, that probably wouldn't be Harry's first thought.
We are all a product of our environment, and Harry's environment is heavily tilted to tell me who your family is, and I'll tell you who you are.
Exactly. Yeah. So that was my politic for this week. What about you, Adri?
Looking at the same things you're looking at through the lens of privilege. And the way I thought about this is a chapter where we see, for me, one of the biggest examples of privilege, which is like just by virtue of who you're related to,
Mhm.
you get an invite to this club. You gain entrance to this club. Hermione Granger, even though she's a very talented witch, does not gain entrance to this club by virtue of being talented, because Slughorn doesn't really even know about that. He only cares about who you're connected with, right? And Ginny is the only person does it through talent alone. She thought she was going to get in trouble for it, not get invited.
Yeah. Yep. There's a lot to be said about Ginny, and we both, shouted it out that Ginny is the only one that did not get invited because of one thing, or like something having to do with like a preconceived notion of her.
Or like who her parents were, or
Yeah.
who her aunt was, or because when Slughorn's asking around about everyone, it's more about like, so how's your uncle?
Yeah, that's why it was so easy to figure out what my politic was for this chapter, because I was reading it and we get to the part with the Slug Club, and literally every single person, it's a relative that he talks about. Every
So
person.
speaking about that, I think we should go deep into do our deep dive. Tell me what the quote was that you're thinking about when you think about nepotism.
Yeah, the quote that I chose was pretty short and self-explanatory. It was as Harry had expected. Sorry, let me try it over. Okay. It was as Harry had suspected. Everyone here seemed to have been invited because they were connected to someone well-known or influential, except Ginny. That was the whole quote. What about you? That's pretty self-explanatory.
We don't have to, like, is that like pretty self-explanatory? We're
Yeah.
not even going to touch
No,
it?
like, I literally, like, this was, it was as Harry had suspected. Everybody had been invited because of someone they were connected to. That's nepotism.
All right, so I know I talked about privilege in terms of, the Slug Club, right? But this quote is not necessarily within the Slug Club. This is how Malfoy talks about the Slug Club. Well, I pity Slughorn's taste. Okay, Malfoy, you do you. Sorry for my commentary, but I had to. Maybe he's going a bit senile. Shame. My father always said he was a good wizard in his day. My father used to be a bit of a favorite of his. Slughorn probably hasn't heard I'm on the train. Or, first of all, Bish Malfoy. Like, this is like the definition of privilege. Like, I'm sorry, does he not know that I'm here?
Yeah. Yeah, you can see Malfoy's butthurtedness, like, peeking through.
I like that you used the scientific term for what Malfoy was displaying in this chapter.
Yes. Psychological.
You are the best. It is, wow. Like, your bachelor's in psychology is really shining through.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it comes in handy every once in a while.
Wow. I am with a mental health professional.
You are. In the presence of your expert here. Okay,
so the other part that I thought about in terms of Malfoy and privilege is, like, he just, like, always seems to out-privilege himself, like, he's always been kind of like, don't you know who my father is? Wait till my father hears about this. And like, okay, Malfoy, whatever. Like, you don't deserve better treatment because of who you're associated with, right? But that's what privilege is. Like, that entitlement that Malfoy feels is when he doesn't see him getting his usual way or him getting what he believes he deserves. And then that's where his preconceived notions of his worth and privilege shine through.
Yeah. And nepotism in that as well. Like, always lording his father and what his father is going to do or what his father thinks above every situation. Like, oh, my father will hear about this. Like, he's your father, therefore this is like some sort of nepotism because he's your family, right?
So your father will hear about this? Cool story, bro. So you're a snitch. Cool. You're a gossip. Cool. Okay. Speaking of characters, who is your character for this one chapter? And you're like, ugh, nepotism.
I mean, like, arguably every member of the Slug Club could be, because they're the people who benefit from nepotism in this chapter. But I'm going to pick Slughorn just because it's a nice direct
because
person.
He's the wielder of.
Yes. Of the nepotism, yes. Yeah. So
he's a nice gatekeeper.
Nice direct, like, person that you can just point at and say, like, okay, you operate based on nepotism. Like, you literally, like, just went through your list of students and looked for last names that you recognized and was like, yep, that's who I'm going to choose because I know who their parents are. I know their uncle, or I know their grandma, or whatever it is.
Let me tell you something. As a person who went to 4 different private schools, my parents are not, did not grow up in those towns. Ergo, the teachers did not know them, right?
Right.
And every time, like, you would have some of those teachers who were of those towns, had never left those towns, had taught at the school for like 10,000 years.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, I remember your father. Oh, I remember your older brother or sister or your cousin or whoever. Or I go to church with your grandma. And it was like this instant favoritism. And anytime I would do well in a test or anything, they'd look at me and go like, are you this smart or did you cheat? And I'm like, are you kidding me? The people who are cheating are the ones that you don't even look at because you love their parents.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, nepotism definitely comes with privileges, like your politics. They kind of go together, right? Having a notable mother or father or, relative in general.
And let me tell you,
comes with both its blessings and its curses, honestly.
I've met some dumb kids from smart parents. So that shit ain't always like generational.
Yeah. I mean, like, personally in my life, my dad is somewhat of like a local celebrity in my hometown, which is a really small hometown in Iowa. But he's
the Midwest.
Yes. But he's the rabbi of the local congregation, and he's very outspoken on a lot of social issues and is really active in the community, and like the press always goes to him for like religious responses to current events and things like that. And he's on the Civil Rights Commission and in our local government, so like he gets interviewed by the press and is in like newspapers and on on TV, like news a lot, basically. And he's known in the community as this, a rabbi and therefore a religious man.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, growing up, people always just assume, especially like in high school, like I wouldn't get invited to parties because they assume that I was like,
because you're the snitch,
a good girl, like I'm a good girl. I'm the rabbi's kid. I wouldn't, go drinking or whatever. Like I wouldn't break the law, stuff like that. Like, there's like the thing, like the concept of preacher's kid, which it transfers over to rabbi's kid, basically. So,
which is hilarious because some of the most party animal people I've ever known are preacher's kids.
Right. Yeah. I mean, so yeah, just like having that over me all the time, like people expecting me to be super religious, people expect me to be super like moral and stuff like that, because of who my father is. It exists. So I mean, nepotism is a real thing.
You didn't go around and say, "Don't you know who my father is?"
No, right. I mean, okay. So like we have like Sunday school, or like religious schools and stuff like that. My dad was technically like the quote unquote principal of the religious school. So like, instead of getting sent to the principal's office, if you're bad, you get sent to the rabbi, and so I would kind of sometimes use that. Like I was like a really rebellious like kid in religious school because I knew I could get away with anything because the teachers either were too scared to like get me in trouble because my dad is the rabbi and like, he's my dad and he's not going to do anything. Or like they would send me to my dad and he would just be like, stop doing it. And I would be like, okay, and come back, like it wasn't. So I did sometimes use that.
Oh my goodness, Helene. Well, you are a bit of the character that I chose then, because you're a bit of a Malfoy.
At least I didn't like use that to bully other people. I just did it to like,
Just bully
be
my teachers, okay?
just be like I just did it to like be loud and like obnoxious in class and not want to talk about what we were actually talking about. Like joke around and be the class clown.
Oh, Helene, you were already a podcaster. Even then,
Yeah, probably.
you created podcasting.
Oh yes, the OG podcaster.
Speaking of the through line through our lives, tell me how you see nepotism in the book, from what you remember.
Yeah, I obviously the Slug Club in general is a theme that comes and stays throughout this entire book. Like we see it in this chapter, and then he has lots of other Slug Club meetings, and it's brought up multiple times throughout the book. And the Slug Club is just, as a concept, is a very nepotism based concept, as we learn in this chapter. Because and just Slughorn as a character, his presence, the way he operates, he favors people with whom he knows will have an influential tie somehow after school in the real world. So just, yeah, those two things in general are big in this book, and therefore nepotism kind of weaves its way through all of those aspects.
One of the biggest privileges I see in this series, in this book at least, is the potions book by the Half-Blood Prince literally falls into Harry's lap. And because of the notes in the book, he seems to be much better at potions than he really is.
Yeah, I guess it is kind of like a privilege that he has that other people don't. Yeah,
don't, because like, no one else in that classroom has those notes.
That's true. Yeah, it's like he's getting special help from,
from his nemesis Snape, but he doesn't know that it's his nemesis.
Right. Yeah, I can see that. That works.
Because like I clearly, one of the most vivid things that I remember from this book, out of all the things that I could remember, I'm sure there are much better things to remember from this book, is Hermione being like, no, you're doing it wrong. And it turns out, like, Harry's potion turns out even better than hers.
Yep.
And she's like, I don't fucking understand. Like, she's so
does
frustrated.
not compute. Does not compute. It's like that. It's like that meme of that girl, like the GIF with the girl with like all the
math equations.
The equations just like floating over her. Yeah, that's Hermione.
Yeah. See, but like I felt that on such a molecular level as this like Hermione like person that I am, and I was like, how dare he not even follow the book instructions to the book and have an even better potion than mine? This is sacrilege. Maybe that's why maybe that's why so many years later this is what I still remember.
Yeah. No, I mean that's fair. If you just like connected to it on such a personal level, it's gonna stick with you. Makes sense.
Like imagine having like this recipe for a cake and you're like, I gotta follow it because like it's right. I don't know, like let's say it's like a molten lava cake, which is like hard to do usually, and you're like, okay, I gotta do it like this way, and then your friend's just like going off book with some like other thing that they found like in a ditch.
I've never made one of these before, and then makes it perfectly.
Like, and then it makes like one that looks like a 5-star restaurant one, and yours is just okay. And then you're gonna be like, what the hell? I've worked so hard my entire life for this.
Right. Fucking annoying. Yeah. Gotta be frustrating. We haven't even gotten to that chapter yet. We'll have a lot to talk about when that happens.
Yeah, because obviously I bonded with that moment a lot.
Stupid Harry's privilege, making it so that he can do things better than Hermione without even trying.
I don't like it. I don't trust it. I don't trust anything that's not hard work and following the rules.
Well, speaking of things you don't like, should we move on to our Dementors and chocolate?
I know. I was just keying it up so well for you.
Beautiful transition. Yeah. So
I'm a professional.
Well, our Dementors and chocolate, for those who might be joining us for the first time, the Dementors are the things that we might not have liked so much in the chapter, and our chocolate is what we hold dear and loved in the chapter. So as we were saying,
it'd be really weird if the Dementors were the things we liked.
Yeah. I mean, if you like Dementors, then, let's have a conversation.
Please, let's have a conversation. Call Helene. She is a mental health professional.
Yes, I am a mental health professional, TM.
I like the TM at the end there, Helene.
Yeah, that's when you know it's real.
Tell me what your Dementor is, Helene.
Yeah, so the thing that I did not like in this chapter, the Dementor, as you might say, was like the super duper casual mention of the the listeners don't even know what it is yet, but you can read the notes. That's why you're laughing.
I'm giggling because I hadn't read it until now, and I just read it.
Yeah, so my Dementor is the super casual mention of the fact that Blaze Zabini's mother might be like, I don't know, a serial killer. Like, I mean, I read that and I'm like, how did we just gloss over this every other time we've read it? So, like, for those who might not have reread the chapter right before listening to the episode, like, I know a lot of people just, like, don't have it fresh in their mind. So, to refresh it for you, Zabini, who was interrogated after McLagan, turned out to have a famously beautiful witch for a mother. From what Harry could make out, she had been married 7 times, each of her husbands dying mysteriously and leaving her mounds of gold.
She's a Black Widow.
So, yeah, she's a Black Widow. Yeah, I mean, like, that is 100% implying that she murders her husbands and so she can get their money and then marries another one and murders them.
Honestly, she's just a peak feminist.
So, yeah, I mean, 7 husbands, definitely serial killer status. Blaze Zabini's mom is a serial killer.
Everything after 1 is serial killer,
Actually, I think it has to be 3 or more. I think there's like a legit rule for that. But either way, it's canon that Blaze Zabini's mom is a serial killer.
Someone report her to the FBI. All right.
Britain's most wanted.
Well, my Dementor was not as specific as yours. Like, there's no quote I can point to. But, like, and I know this is probably going to be my Dementor every time he does this. Kind of like how every time Umbridge breathed last,
Yeah.
Last
she was my Dementor in literally every chapter that she showed up in. I was like,
Umbridge, she's in it. So, of course. But, all the name dropping Slughorn does constantly just irritates the fuck out of me.
Yeah.
It takes away my joy. It takes away my patience. I'm like, I hate people like this so much. Like, why do you have to flex so hard to like be like, see, I'm important because I surround myself with important people. Who the fuck cares? Everyone's important no matter who they are. And who their friends are, like literally. So that's my rant.
It's definitely one of the least enjoyable aspects of Slughorn's character. It bothers the crap out of me too, so I get it.
Yeah. So let's cleanse the palate with some chocolate, please.
Yes.
Tell me what your chocolate is.
Yes, I hinted to this earlier, and you really, I mean, so you know how my Dementor every single chapter last book was Umbridge? Mm-hmm. My chocolate in every single chapter of Half-Blood Prince is probably going to be Ginny. Just put that out there.
That's legit.
So Ginny's my favorite character, so what can you expect from me? So yeah, my chocolate is, and I will say, like, before you even get to your chocolate was my second choice. Like, if this chocolate that I'm about to say wasn't in this chapter, I would have said yours. So,
I mean, but I would say any chapter with a heavy Ginny presence, she's going to be your chocolate.
Oh, yeah, it's a safe bet. Safe bet, yeah. So my chocolate is the fact that Ginny was the only one invited to the Slug Club based solely on her merits and skill. She's badass. She's good. She's talented, and she doesn't need a notable person in her family to be recognized as the badass bitch she is. So go Ginny.
I mean, We are a Ginny Appreciation Club here, so yes.
Yeah.
So, my chocolate was the fact that not only was like Harry super cool throughout this entire chapter up until he got caught, but when he was offered to like go and find a compartment with the cute girls or whatnot, because he was with Luna and Neville, and they were like, "You don't want to be with those losers." He was like, "They're my friends. Bye."
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like, I mean, talk about character growth, because it's kind of like a little bit of a 180 since the last book in in Order, where he's on the train and he's in the compartment with Luna and Neville, and Cho walks in and he's like embarrassed of them.
I
You
think
remember
he
that?
learned his lesson
Yeah.
in Order, and also he was dealing with a lot in Order, and there's been some growth.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So, I mean, it's just great character growth that it's very evident. You know, he's embarrassed of them in the last book, and he's, proud of them in this book. So, hell yeah. Go
Yeah,
Harry.
because he knows at the end of the day that these are the people who've always had his back.
These are the people who would literally die for him, as shown in, the end of the Order of Phoenix, when they almost did die for him.
Canonically, yes.
Yeah.
and and these are the people who've stood by him, even when other people didn't believe in him,
Right.
and when like there was like an active smear campaign against him.
Exactly. Like, where was Romilda Vane then, bitch?
Well, fair weather friends and all that jazz.
Exactly.
Well, another thing that we love in this podcast is our patrons. We love them so much with all our heart. And every episode, we have some spicy extra bonus content for our patrons. This week, we're going to be talking about, how we did like a Patreon segment on like if the Weasley twins wrote a motivational book for
Right.
business,
From broke
what
to
would
joke.
it be like? From broke to joke. That's the title we settled on.
Yes.
We are going to be talking about but what if Slughorn was like a Tony Robbins character and tried to give out motivational speeches on how to be successful by surrounding yourself with successful people?
I'm very excited for this, and I can like see another sticker in our future.
And you are correct. You are so correct. Like, I imagine Slughorn with like one of those like microphone, like the Tony Robbins microphones, and like kind of like the 90s, like synergy, power, expression, like all those like like stupid PowerPoint slides.
Yeah.
So yeah.
No, I can't wait for this. This is gonna be a good one.
If you think, man, that sounds really funny and really great and also kind of insightful, and you want to listen to that, but you're not a patron yet, first of all, why are you not a patron? But second of all, I got good news for you. You can become a patron for as little as $2 a month and get access to all of this sweet, sweet bonus content by going to patreon.com/accuratepolitics.
Yeah, but if you want that and some of those really cool stickers that I, threw in and mentioned a little bit earlier.
So that's a $5 a month buy-in.
So,
I mean, they're pretty nice stickers.
Yeah, the world is your oyster, really. I mean, the world is your oyster. You can pledge as much as you want to and have an array of choices for prizes, or not prizes, but perks that you can have.
Well, and also Helene and I need to also, in the next couple of months, come up with maybe different perks on top of those stickers. Maybe there'll be tote bags later on. Who knows?
Ooh, maybe. I'll have to have that conversation.
I mean, I think that's something fun that could happen. Yes.
Possibly.
All right. Now, last week, we asked our listeners a question, a burning question. And this is honestly the most important question we've ever asked.
I don't know if it was as important as the poop question.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, although last week's question is pretty high up. What would be on your shopping list if you were to visit Weasley's wizard wheezes. Helene, you said that you would tell me what yours would be.
Yeah.
On this episode.
I did. And, you know, it was hard, honestly. I do think Pygmy Puff would be on my list for sure. Maybe like some fainting fancies or I don't want like puking pastels because I hate vomiting and I don't really like blood. So
what about like the daydream, the patented daydream?
Maybe I don't have a lot of time in the day to daydream, but like it would be fun to like just get lost in a daydream. That one would be interesting. The thing is I like nougat, so maybe I would do nosebleed nougat because I would love to have just like a random excuse to get out of anything that I'm like not feeling right then. Like that is, I'm like, I'm an extroverted introvert. Actually, I'm an introverted extrovert, honestly. I am an extrovert, but I have introverted tendencies where I'd like sometimes just like, sometimes I just need to like sleep.
Be alone and recharge. Yeah. Yes. Like, I think we often think about extroverts and introverts as like this false binary of like, you're either one or the other. But the reality is you are a percentage of both.
Yeah.
So like maybe you're 60% extroverted, 40% introverted. So you do need that downtime.
Yeah. Like, you know, maybe I'm with all my extended family and they start asking me about when I'm going to get a boyfriend and get married. And I just, you know, chomp down on a nosebleed nougat, get a nosebleed and say, sorry, I gotta, you know, I would answer your question, but I gotta go to the bathroom and, you know, fix my nosebleed. I'm bleeding from my mouth or from my face. So, you know, gotta go. Like that would be nice.
I guess that would be really nice. I would say like, if you don't have one of those, you could always rely on the patented Adri method of, well, when are you going to stop being such a bitch about it?
Like, why do you care?
It's like, so like, you know, oh, Adri, like, you know, when I didn't have a boyfriend or wasn't married or when are you going to get a boyfriend? When are you going to get married? When are you going to have, you know, X, right? Be like, well, when are you going to get your stick out of your ass?
Right.
And so like that would usually stop the conversation.
Yeah, but as a puff, it would be nice to have a reason that wasn't like that was like a little passive aggressive, like I guess less passive aggressive.
Non-confrontational.
Yeah, non-confrontational, exactly. Like, oh, I'm like, you know, there's blood gushing from my face. I gotta.
Well, I guess like this is not any less confrontational, but it's also a little bit funnier. Be like, when are you gonna start getting Botox for your wrinkles? Like
that's so mean.
Well, but it's mean for them to like pry into your personal life.
I agree.
Like you with yours.
I agree.
I see it's fair game. They started it.
Right.
Done.
So what about you? I mean, you also mentioned Pygmy Puffs.
Definitely Pygmy Puffs and definitely the patented Daydreams because they sound like a tawdry romance novel in which I can be the heroine instead of just like pretending that I have things in common with the heroine.
It would be nice, like, you know, if you're about to get on a plane, you could like have a daydream on the plane. Like, this is a good way to kill
they
time.
need to do like a daydream where it's basically you're Keeley and Ted Lasso, and I would die.
Yeah, you're Keeley and Roy is your boyfriend, and
exactly. That's beautiful. What I want. Yes, that's all I want in life.
Well, we do have some answers to this question from our listeners, which I can share.
Yes, please do.
So Aries_Vincent on Twitter said Peruvian instant darkness powder.
Ooh, interesting. Intriguing.
Yeah. And similarly, D.BinoD0210 on Instagram also said that escaping powder which Harry used, which I'm guessing they mean of the Peruvian instant darkness powder.
Well, but you know what, Helene? You could also use that when people ask you that.
Oh, true. I could get that instead of the nosebleed nougat. Oh, when are you going to get a boyfriend? Poof, and she's gone.
She's gone. And you're surrounded by darkness because you shouldn't have asked that question.
Yeah, that'd be a good escape route. Well, Dreamquaffle on Instagram agrees with you and says, I want some of those daydreaming charms. So
yes.
And my _S2_NM on Instagram said puking pastels, but I want to know.
But I want to know if she wants to deploy these on someone else or for herself.
Yeah.
If it's for herself, I gotta say, hard pass.
Yeah, I mean, like, so, like, the idea of in the book is interesting, but like, thinking about actually using one of those, like, who wants to voluntarily vomit? That's my question.
That is my question as well, and I can't even understand who would do
I mean,
that on purpose.
it's a really good excuse. Like, it's probably the best excuse of all of them to like get out of whatever you want to get out of.
Yeah, but a nosebleed is less pukey.
Yeah, but like you can recover pretty fast from a nosebleed, and like you might not have to leave the whole day or whatever. But if you puke, you can be like, oh, I have food poisoning, and like leave. You know.
But again, they have Peruvian instant darkness time.
Well, that doesn't explain why they're leaving. It's just they just leave. It's like an Irish goodbye.
My favorite kind of goodbye. Listen, I never said I was like super nice. I try to be, but there are things. There are things, okay? So for this week, the burning question we want to know the answer to is, what do you think Harry's life would look like if Voldemort had chosen to go after Neville instead of Harry?
I'm really excited to see what people say about this one. It's a good one. It's a good kind of like what if. I mean, we have Marvel's
It's like a fork in the road. Yeah,
well,
it's like the fork in the road. Yeah.
Yeah, so Marvel has like that what if series that's coming out, and it's gotten people, asking all these questions of like multiple universes and like alternate realities and like this.
And like it's like that Nexus event type situation.
Yeah,
and
like if this was the multiverse and there was a branch in the timeline, and Voldemort made that one decision to go after Neville's parents instead of Neville instead of Harry, and kill Neville's parents instead of Harry's, and all of that. What would Harry's life would look like? Like, what would multiverse, alternate reality Harry be doing?
Yeah, and in consequence, a little bit the wizarding world, but I'm more interested in Harry's life.
No, yeah, exactly. I mean, if you listeners want to explain like how that might have affected the entire war and whether or not Voldemort will actually have been defeated and all of that, definitely let us know your thoughts on that too. But yeah, there's a lot of possibilities of the answers with this question.
Oh, I love it. I can't wait. Maybe it's just like one little detail. It could be like a long paragraph, but it just could be so many things.
Yeah, feel free to send us an email because we haven't gotten a lot of those lately, and a lot of these answers have been coming through on social media. But if you have like a long, well thought out, yeah, like in-depth answer that you want to send over, we will read it most likely, as long as it's not like rude or something on the podcast. So send it to us at aciopolitics@gmail.com.
I love how you're like, as long as it's not like rude or something.
Yeah, I mean, like if the email is like, it's not like, well, I hate Adri and Helene so much, they're so bad and blah blah blah, but this is my answer. Like, we're not going to read that. Like, but
I mean, you can hate me, just don't hate Helene. I'm okay with being hated. I'm okay with being notorious.
I need to be liked by everybody. It's a flaw I have.
It's okay, Helene. Sometimes people grow out of it.
Yeah. But yes, at Aciopolitics on all social media. We're going to be posting this on Monday, shortly after the episode comes out. So reply to us there, send us a DM, send us an email, call us. We have a phone number.
You can also leave us a voicemail and we can play it on the show.
Right.
You've got options depending on your percentage of introvert / extrovert, to bring it back to our earlier conversation.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
All right. I think we're done with today's episode. But before we go, Helene, what media have you been consuming?
So I finished Doom Patrol, and other than watching a bit more Bachelor in Paradise, and I went back and watched like a old season just because I had nothing else to do. I haven't really started anything new since, but over the weekend I did decide to rewatch the first Kissing Booth movie on Netflix. They had just recently come out with the third. I watched that as soon as it came out. But I just remembered how much I loved the first one, and it's probably one of my favorite movies. Honestly, I've seen it like maybe 3 or 4 times at this point. And so I went back and watched the first Kissing Booth movie, and it is just like a warm hug. I love that movie so much. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's so cute. And
I know I have seen it. Do I remember the plot? No, not at all. I need to rewatch it.
I suggest rewatching it. Yeah, it's just I just love it. I know it's based off books, so I should probably go read the book. But
Series that are based on books are like my kink, honestly.
Yeah, honestly, but the thing is,
movies.
Like, the first one was amazing. The second and the third one were not as good. Like, they were just okay. And so I kind of just like to I like to watch the first one and then just pretend the other two don't exist.
Okay. You know what? I'll allow it.
But yeah, so that was my media. In terms of plugs, I wanted to just make sure everybody knew that our episode with Swish and Flick podcast came out this week as well, and it should be on their feed, Swish and Flick podcast on wherever you listen to podcasts. I know they're on Apple Podcasts for sure. We did an episode with them on the Ministers for Magic. We covered about half of them, and we were planning on doing a part 2. Which is going to be released on our feed here in Accio Politics. We have to still set that up and record that, so it won't be for a little bit. But go listen to part 1. Go check out Swish and Flick if you haven't yet. They're a really, really great podcast, women-led, 2 queer women, and they're just really funny and sweet and amazing and really insightful. So I highly suggest checking them out, if only to listen to our episode, because I thought it was a pretty good episode.
First of all, yes. Second of all, yes to everything you said. So I don't know. I don't have anything else to add except if you're not thinking, if you're thinking right now, maybe I won't listen to it. I'm like, how dare you? Go listen.
Yeah, go check it out. And I'm really excited to have them on our podcast for part 2 to talk more about some of the other Ministers for Magic that we didn't get to. And
yes. Can't wait. Yeah. I can't wait. I'm excited.
Me too. What about you for media and plugs? What were you watching this week?
Like this is not like the traditional media that we usually plug, but there's this app called the Breathe app that I've been using recently because sometimes I have trouble falling asleep. Mm-hmm. And it's not breathe as in breathe. It is BREETHE. And it has meditations, hypnotherapy, visualizations, and all this other stuff that have actually, I am not kidding, changed my life. I am able to go to sleep very quickly during like the meditation or the hypnotherapy or whatever. And I wake up feeling much better the next day and rested. And I've been using it for about a month. So like I hadn't said anything before because I was like, I need to like give this some time to see if it really works, because it is subscription based. So there is a fee for it. And I don't want to like plug something that I'm not getting paid for, and two, that then doesn't work and people are like, you're full of shit.
No, that's very responsible of you. That's awesome. I'm so glad to hear that. I know that it's so nice when you find something like that finally like actually works for you. So that's awesome.
Yeah, and even like if you're having like anxiety, like there's different things, right? Like there's meditations for like normal meditations. There's meditations for you to go to sleep. There's hypnotherapy for you to go to sleep, or hypnotherapy where it's just like 30 minutes and then you're out and about. Like it depends on what you need and what you want, but it actually like helps me kind of decompress and soothes my brain into sleep very quickly. Not even melatonin can do this to me.
Nice. That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, the plugs, again, I will say, please listen to Swish and Flick, not just for our episode, because they're wonderful and we need I think we need more Potter podcasts in our lives, right?
Yeah, definitely, and especially ones that have like such great representation and good, thoughtful,
and good and awesome
yeah,
conversations. Like it's not,
yeah, like they're very, very thoughtful and considerate of their community, and they're just great. So
Love it. Well, that's it for today's episode. You can join us next week as we talk about chapter numero 8 of Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. This one is titled Snape Victorious.
I don't like it when Snape is victorious. If you've enjoyed this conversation, yes, exactly. If you've enjoyed this conversation, we like to ask you, please, to take just one itty bitty second of your time out of your day to give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts or, Spotify or, I don't know, Podbean or what other podcast apps are there?
Amazon Music has podcasts, and
Yeah,
you're on it.
Google Play. I don't know.
Google Music, I think, is what you're thinking of.
Napster. I don't even know. Just
Napster.
go.
LimeWire. Yes.
Yeah,
okay.
LimeWire. Go give us a 5-star rating on Napster, because I'm sure that's still a thing. And if you can't, then Apple Podcasts is fine too. Yeah, because as we like to say, it helps people find the podcast and grows our inevitable influence over the world so that we can one day achieve world domination.
Because we're reading Slughorn's book, obviously.
Exactly.
But,
what would Slughorn do?
Or, you know what? I think I see him more as having, and we'll talk about this on the Patreon content, but I want to give a sneak peek to non-patrons. I see him having as an empire like a la Tony Robbins. He has motivational videos. He has books. He has tapes. He has everything. But until then, politics managed.
Support this show by going to patreon.com/Akiopolitics. Our patrons keep this show going. You can find us online at akiopolitics.com, and we are at Akiopolitics on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. You can email us your thoughts at info@akiopolitics.com. Leave us a voicemail at 915-996-1699. And you might just hear yourself on the podcast. Adriana Wilson is the founder and creative director of the podcast. Helene Karp is the producer and social media manager. Allison Pullman is the audio wizard and editor who makes us sound so good. Cover art and physical rewards are designed by Adriana Wilson. The views expressed by the hosts and guests are expressly their own and not representative of their employers or associates. Akiopolitics is part of the MuggleNet family of podcasts.
Yes, today we are going to be discussing Chapter 7 of not Order of the Phoenix, because we're not in Book 5 anymore. We're going to be discussing...
Just the day of it. Honestly, what a day. What a day.